there is this boy I am obsessed with. I mean, a board. There is a board I am obsessed with. But its name does sound a little bit like a Swedish boy's name. Olo. In today's episode, we use the olo, the ancient Hawaiian surfboard, as a springboard for a little history lesson on the beginnings of surfing. Welcome to the Wipeout Weekly, the daily podcast for beginners, wannabe surfers, and seasoned wipeout enthusiasts. No hype, no filler, just the highs, lows, and honest truth about learning to surf and finding your place in surf culture. I'm your host, Suze Wilson. Let's go out. To me, the olo is synonymous with the birth of surfing. Surfing originated in the Polynesian islands and was later exported to Hawaii, which was colonized by the Polynesians around 300 AD. But according to historians, some version of surfing dates back to 2000 BC. And back then, it was mainly kids' play. They'd catch waves on whatever floated, a piece of wood, a dried frond, using it as a planing surface. In Hawaii and Tahiti, both children and adults surfed, often riding full-length boards while standing up. By 1200 AD, surfing in Hawaii had become a full-blown cultural obsession. Everyone surfed. Kids, women, men, commoners, the ruling class. And they all surfed naked. Don't look, don't look. And when we say it was an obsession, we mean it. A 19th century scholar once wrote, "All thought of work is at an end. The wife may go hungry, and the children. But the head of the house does not care. All day there is nothing but surfing." So if your friends and family ever complain about you surfing too much, just know, it's totally historically justified. The big kahunas of Hawaii, literally Hawaiian royalty, surfed on olo boards at exclusive surf breaks. So again, if you ever thought locals only was bad today, try being a commoner in ancient Hawaii. So how big was the olo? Short answer, way too big. The olo was either 17 or 22 feet long, 16 to 20 inches wide, and 6 to 8 inches thick, depending on who you ask. It was also an absolute nightmare to carry, weighing anywhere from 168 to 200 pounds. For context, a modern fiberglass longboard weighs up to 25 pounds. A classic wooden longboard weighs up to 40 pounds. So now imagine controlling the olo in the surf at 5 times that weight. And if one went flying in the lineup, game over, man. This might actually explain why the kapulos, the ancient Hawaiian system of sacred laws and prohibitions, prevented commoners from owning an olo. Not just for status reasons, but maybe as a public safety measure. In Hawaiian, olo doesn't have a direct translation. It essentially just means a long, heavy board ridden by royalty. The olo was made of wili wood, the same lightweight wood that was used for canoes. Occasionally, an olo was made from redwood, but that was extremely rare because the wood had to drift thousands of miles from the Pacific Northwest before arriving in Hawaii. Making an olo was serious business that took about a week. First, they had to find a tall, appropriate tree. Then, before cutting it down, a red kumu fish was placed at the trunk as a spiritual offering. Prayers were said and the little fish was buried in the root system. At first, I felt bad for the fish until I found out when canoes were made for long, perilous journeys, the sacrifice was human. Needs must, I guess. Once the tree was cut, it was roughly shaped into a board using an adze. It's basically like an ancient axe. Then smoothed out with coral and pumice, finally waterproofed with nut oil. And guess what? The olo didn't have a fin. Fins weren't actually introduced to surfboards until 1935, thanks to Tom Blake. But that's a story for another episode. So where did they ride the Olo? Some say the Olo was reserved for gentle, sloping waves. Others claim that it was meant for big, post-tsunami waves. In 1920, when Tom Blake was hanging out with Duke Kahanamoku in Hawaii, they made a 16-foot, 130-pound Olo replica. And according to Blake, it worked particularly well in large surf. Blake later wrote, "The Duke did some of the most beautiful riding I have ever seen on his new longboard. If you're ever on Oahu, check out the Bishop Museum in Honolulu. They have a large collection of prehistoric surfboards, including the Olo, and display them periodically." Wait, scratch that. I just heard back from the museum, and they don't have any Olo boards on display. And unfortunately, they are so large that they don't have any good images of them either. But there will be an exhibit in June at MAH in Santa Cruz, and their board that belonged to Abner Packy will be there, as well as some other boards featured in the exhibit. Well, that's good news. I'm going to Santa Cruz. Woohoo! Olo or no Olo, go to the Bishop Museum anyway. It is fantastic. I would have loved to ride the Olo. At that length and volume, I bet you my pop-up would have improved massively. But hey, us commoners never stood a chance. Fear not. In one of the upcoming episodes, we'll talk about 2 other ancient Hawaiian surfboards. If you can't wait and want a deep dive into surf history, I highly recommend The History of Surfing by Matt Warshaw. Or better yet, listen to the audiobook. It's hugely enjoyable. And that's all for today. Check out the Waipai Weekly for our free newsletter, more stories, and ways to connect with us. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow for more of the Waipai Weekly.